Welcome Loren Poncha to the AgEmerge stage. Loren and his wife Lisa have done some amazing things to bring livestock back to the land. They live in Marin County, California, which has some of the highest land costs in the country, being just north of San Francisco. Yet they've been innovative on how they've dealt with those high land costs in order to keep farming local. One of the other things that Loren has had to do is go through a personal paradigm shift from being a pharmaceutical rep to now being a regenerative organic farmer. One time he was prescribing things and selling things to kill everything. Now he's doing everything he can to prosper everything. And his management, selection, and the soil health is keeping his herd healthy. Finally, I'd like for you to pay close attention to how he's reinvented his business really twice. First, by starting a direct from the farm to consumer business at markets and also selling to butcher shops and restaurants. And then recently with COVID-19, he's reinvented his business again by going direct to the consumer. There's no such thing as a challenge for Loren and Lisa. They are ready for it, they've met it, and they're really looking great moving forward into the future. So enjoy this, think about how this applies to your farm, and don't be stuck in the paradigm of you can't do anything, because this is what you've always done. Listen to Loren and how they look at it and take it as a challenge to do something different.
Welcome everybody. I'm super excited to be here and thankful to be here presenting with AgEmerge. And I want to thank Monty for inviting me to come and present here today. We're in some strange times here in the world with all the COVID life, and this was supposed to be in person, but we're making the best of it, and actually we're going to stream this out. So hopefully a lot of people around the country are going to be able to see this and ask questions and learn and share ideas, and it'll help with our networking. So this morning I'm going to tell you about why we do what we do, and this afternoon I'm going to tell you more about how we do what we do. So my name is Loren Poncha. I'm actually a fourth generation rancher in Marin County, which is north of San Francisco, about 60 miles. We have been farming or ranching in this area for 5 generations. My little girls are the 5th generation here on the ranch. And if you can see in this photo, the top picture, Angelo's sitting down with the cane in his hand. And he's the first immigrant from Garzano, Italy. My great-grandfather, Angelo, he came from Garzano, Italy in 1897. And then to his right is Alfred, his son, and then the guy holding the little baby is my dad. That's Alfred, and then I'm the little baby, and that's in 1975. And then the picture below it is a pretty iconic picture. It's from Art Rogers took both of these photos, and it's pretty iconic because it shows the 2 empty chairs and the symbolism of we're in the exact same location, but our business has changed, and we've adapted and changed as a family and as a business as we've grown on to keep the generations of Poncha's farming and the legacy continuing. So now this is what the photo looks like with the 4 generations, and then just me and my dad, and now my little girls involved. And a really important part of our operation the whole time is my dad's mother, my Nani, and many agriculturists around the country know that there's matriarchs in the family that are just as important as the patriarchs. And this lady taught me a tremendous amount about ranching and how to take care of animals and hard work. And so she's like the Mother Teresa for animals, always part of our operation. And she passed away a few years ago, but we planted about 10,000 bulbs going up the driveway. So every spring we have this huge flush of beautiful flowers, and it's in her memory. So now we're here with me and my dad and Avery And this is really the why we're continuing our legacy. We want to have a good, solid, successful business that my kids don't have to come back to, but if they want to come back to, it's going to be exciting for them to come back. And so I'll tell you a little bit of a story about like my background and how we got to the point where we're at now. And basically, I grew up a small town farm boy, and everything I knew about the world was, the little town I grew up in. I kicked and screamed as my parents said, "Hey, you got to go to college." And I was like, okay. So all I wanted to do was really farm and be a rancher. And went away to college down at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo after doing all the normal small town farm boy stuff. And when I went to Cal Poly, I really realized that my third year at Cal Poly, I'd come home every summer and work on the ranch, and I realized there wasn't economic opportunity for me at the ranch. So about my junior year, I started doing some internships with ag chemical companies, and after I got out of Cal Poly, I went to work for Monsanto because there wasn't room for me at home. And I went to work for Monsanto. I sold bovine somatotropin, and I traveled all over the entire country. It was an absolutely amazing experience, and I learned about GMOs and working for a huge conglomerate company, and they invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in me and my education and taught me about marketing and sales and other people and how to learn and adapt and change. And when I was doing that, I could not stop thinking about the ranch and how I could come home and keep the legacy going and how I could make it a real business. And it was hard to do because there wasn't real economic opportunity at home. My parents had done the same thing over and over and over, and they were basically almost subsistence farmers where they would make enough money to be able to do it again the next year, and then they'd make enough money to be able to do it the next year, but not be able to save and put money away for retirement or that type of thing. And I never wanted to be that way. I always wanted to have a super successful business that could pay for my kids to go to college wherever they wanted to go, and would be exciting to come back to. But as many of us in agriculture, we growing up on a farm, you get bitten by the bug and you can't stop thinking about how to produce an amazing product or be excited about raising food for consumers. But I have a unique perspective now because I came from very, very conventional agriculture, and now you fast forward to where we are 22 or 23 years later as I'm an organic rancher in West Marin County serving food to the Bay Area and people that have money that want to know where their food comes from. So one of the things that allows me to do this is there's been a huge renaissance in local agriculture. And what's old is new again. People want to know where their food comes from. Consumers vote with their dollars, and they're really, especially the consumers in my area, they want to know where their food from and who raised it and have authenticity and transparency associated with it. So we looked at that as a big opportunity to, let's come back and start marketing food directly to the Bay Area. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward, but that's one of our main things. I think it's important to note that I mentioned when I was at Cal Poly and I was transitioning basically to adult life of a career, there wasn't real opportunity for me at the ranch, so I went to work corporate America, couldn't stop thinking about the home ranch, and around my 30th birthday, me and my wife were double income, no kids, living in Sacramento, which is about 100 miles from the ranch, and we had a great life, but I really, really, really wanted to make something happen at the ranch. So I came home one weekend after working on the ranch. So I'd work during the week in corporate America, and then on the weekends I'd go to the ranch because it was just exciting and fun for me. I just work all the time. And I came home one weekend, and and I told Lisa, I said, hey, we need to move back to Marin County and try and make this a real business. And I'm totally and completely okay if we move back and we fail, but if we don't even try, I'm not going to be fulfilled as a human. So we have to at least try. So this is a real important part of our story, is we called my parents up, where they were in a kind of a transitional phase of their careers and their life. They'd been farming continuously for, their whole entire life. And we met them in Napa, which is halfway between Tamaulipas and Sacramento. And we basically said, hey, here's what we want to do. We want to come home. We want to take over the operation. We want to lease the land from you and pay you a fair market rent. And we want to buy all of your animals. And by doing this, you're going to make more money than you have been for the last 20 years of doing things the way that you are. It's going to take a lot of pressure off your operation, and it's going to allow the next generation, which is me at the time, to be able to come here and bring some exciting and revigoration back into the operation. So thankfully, they said yes, and we moved back to Marin County about 16 years ago, and we bought all their cattle and we leased all their land. In the first 4 or 5 years, it was a little bit of a transitional struggle because I managed the cattle different than my dad managed the cattle, and we would sell. Our goal at the time when we moved back was to sell 3 or 4 loads of cattle to the highest bidder anywhere in the country. So we sold to Coleman Natural Beef, and we sold to Harris Ranch, and we sold to whoever was the highest bidder at the auction the day that we sold cattle. And what we quickly realized is a small 5% or 10% premium wasn't going to allow us to expand or really have a business that was successful and exciting for the next generation to come back to. So what we did was we decided we were going to sell direct to consumers. We got the whole place certified organic. We got some contracts with some local grocery stores, and we started, we put a line in the sand and said we're going to start selling direct to consumers. That was a real interesting time for us because we went 1 whole year without any income. We used to be a traditional cow-calf operation where we'd raise the calves, and then at 10 months old, we'd sell them off to the highest bidder. And instead, we raised the calves, we weaned them, and we kept them for a whole entire year and started selling them direct to consumers. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in my breakout session a little while later, but that's been a long, beautiful learning process, but it's really allowed us to expand. And the other really cool part about our operation that I like to tell a story about is there's a ranch right next door to our home ranch, and it's like a puzzle piece. It fits right into to my family's home ranch that Angelo, the old guy sitting in the chair, bought in the early 1900s. And being the 4th generation, the 1st generation bought land, and nobody else bought any land until me and my wife, the 4th generation. And Dave Burbank, the property that sits kitty corner to us, he wasn't in active agriculture anymore. He was basically leasing to another farmer. And I reached out to him one day and said, hey, Dave, if you're ever interested in selling this place, please give me the chance. And this was when I was about 30. Please give me the chance to buy it. And he said, I'm not interested in selling it ever. We're going to keep it. I said, okay. And then around that same time when we moved back from Sacramento, I wrote Dave a handwritten note and said, this is our business. We came up with the name Stemple Creek Ranch. Stemple Creek winds through his property, and it winds through my parents' property. And I said, just in case you ever do want to make any changes in the future, keep this note and let us know. I didn't hear a thing. And then about 5 or 6 months later, I saw Dave at the post office, and he said, hey, Lauren, what would that look like? And I was all giddy and excited and going, holy smokes. He's actually maybe even interested in selling this ranch to us. So we got with Dave, and we figured out what the terms should be, and we basically bought the ranch next door. So I'm super excited about that, and I'll explain more about how we did that this afternoon. But But it's a real important part of our operation because we went from being pharmaceutical representatives selling chemicals to treat animals to being ranchers in West Marin that were actually building a brand and making a living. And it's a real cool transition. And this is the ranch that we bought. There's some cool little features down there at the barns, and we've really figured out ways to adapt and change to be able to buy real estate in West Marin and make it thrive. And so I'm real excited to tell you more about all of that today, and real excited and honored to be here at this conference, and looking forward to answering any questions in the breakouts to show you and describe some of the things that we're doing, and hopefully help solve some problems or get you excited about opportunities in the ag field. So see you this afternoon.